What's up, fellow humans and non-humans? Today we're going to be talking about great women in music history. These are women that were pioneers in music, or women who created major influence with their singing, songwriting, civil rights activism, and or just the way they changed or propelled the music industry in one way or another. First up on the list is one of the best jazz singers that ever lived. That jazz singer is Eleanor Harris, who was better known as Billie Holiday. Holiday was nicknamed Lady Day and was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on April 7, 1915, but actually grew up in Baltimore, Maryland in the 1920s. Billie had a really troubled childhood that included an absent jazz musician father named Clarence Holiday, truancy in school, and being sent off to the House of Good Shepherd in 1925, which was a reform school for African American girls. After she came back from the reform school, she was sent right back in 1926 after she had reportedly been sexually assaulted after coming home. Billie had moved to New York in the late 1920s with her mother, where her mother worked in a house of prostitution. Her early influences included Bessie Smith and Louis Armstrong, and although Billie had no formal training and couldn't read music, she started singing in nightclubs in Harlem, New York in the early 1930s as a teenager, where she was signed to a record deal in 1935 with Brunswick Records, which is a subsidiary of Columbia Records. She had changed her record label to Commodore Records after Brunswick Records wouldn't let her record a controversial song about lynching in the South. That song was interpreted from a poem called Strange Fruit, and it went on to be her most well-known song and is considered to be the first protest song in the Civil Rights era. Some of her other well-known songs are God Bless the Child, Lady Sings the Blues, and The Very Thought of You. Diana Ross also starred in a movie about Holiday called Lady Sings the Blues in 1972 that was based off of her autobiography, so go check that out. Billie Holiday died at the young age of 44 in 1959 after a battle with drug and alcohol addiction. She wasn't inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until the year 2000. She will forever be known as a pioneer in music history that not only includes her impact on the African American and civil rights community, but also her unique singing style and phrasing that has influenced countless other artists. Next up is one of the first and most celebrated singer-songwriters in the history of music, and Carole King. Carole King was born on February 9, 1942 in Manhattan, New York. King has written over 400 songs that have been recorded by over 1,000 artists. She also hasn't done too bad as a singer herself. She's written or co-written 118 hits on the Billboard Hot 100 and had 8 hit albums in the US that includes 3 #1 albums. Her first hit from 1960 is Will You Love Me Tomorrow by the Shirelles that she co-wrote with her ex-husband Jerry Goffin. The song was also in the highest viewed YouTube video of all time, and the one that I did on the Dirty Dancing movie soundtrack right here. Okay, so I lied about it being the highest viewed YouTube video of all time. King's biggest album is Tapestry. Tapestry is the 81st biggest selling album of all time, selling over 25 million copies worldwide. It stood at #1 for 15 consecutive weeks. King took home 4 Grammy Awards for Tapestry, including Album of the Year in 1972. It was ranked number 25 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list. The album remained on the Billboard charts for 313 weeks, second only to Pink Floyd's 724 weeks with The Dark Side of the Moon. Both of those numbers are just mind-boggling. I think we'll put Tapestry at the level that it was at in propelling the singer-songwriter era. Was not only just great songwriting, but the album has an intimacy that a lot of the music at the time didn't really have. The 60s were all about, rock and big sound, and here comes Tapestry in 1971. That was the direct opposite of that. But the great songwriting by Carole King just couldn't be ignored. Other well-known songs of King's, and I can't possibly list them all, include You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin, You've Got a Friend, It's Too Late, I Feel the Earth Move, So Far Away, One Fine Day by the Chiffons, The Locomotion by Little Eva, and Up on the Roof by the Drifters. King also went on to showcase a Broadway production about her life and music called Beautiful, the Carole King musical, in 2014. King was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1987 and in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990. She also has a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a Kennedy Center Honors Award, and a Library of Congress Gershwin Prize for Popular Song Award. Up next is Roberta Joan Anderson, who is better known as Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell was born on November 7, 1943 in Fort Macleod, Alberta, Canada. She got her start singing in nightclubs all over Canada in the early 60s and then moved to the US, specifically New York, at the age of 22 in 1965, where she began to tour. Mitchell started out as a folk singer, but then branched out into pop, rock, and jazz. Joni had polio as a kid and couldn't form the right chords on her left hand for guitar, so she started making her own tunings on the guitar to work around that. Not only did she write all of her songs, but she also produced most of them herself. A lot of her songs deal with social and philosophical issues, and she was one of, if not the first female singers, musicians, and songwriters to champion women's liberation. Her first husband, Chuck Mitchell, recommending a certain book for her to read was taken in a condescending way and seemed to be the last straw for her in the relationship, and it caused her to blossom into a person with a different mentality. A mentality that was more of independence and breaking from traditional man-woman roles. The book that was recommended is called Henderson the Rain King, and it resulted in Joni writing her song called Both Sides Now in 1967. Later on in 1968, Joni wrote the song I Had a King. The lyrics explained just what she was thinking about their relationship and that traditional mentality. The lyrics in the chorus go, I can't go back there anymore. You know my keys won't fit the door. You know my thoughts don't fit the man. They never can, they never can. Mitchell is best known for her album Blue. Blue was ranked number 3 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time in 2020, which is the highest position for a female on the list, and NPR called Blue the greatest album ever made by a woman. Notable songs written by Mitchell include River, which is such a beautiful song, and was in my video on Actors Who Can Sing right there. Both Sides Now, Help Me, and Big Yellow Taxi. Mitchell has influenced great songwriters like Bob Dylan, Prince, and Bonnie Raitt, just to name a few. She also has won 9 Grammy Awards and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1997. Rolling Stone called her one of the greatest songwriters ever, and AllMusic has stated, when the dust settles, Joni Mitchell may stand as the most important and influential female recording artist of the late 20th century. Up next is Eunice Kathleen Wayman, better known as Nina Simone, or the High Priestess of Soul. Nina Simone was born on February 21st, 1933 in Tryon, North Carolina. Simone's musical style was pretty diverse and included classical, jazz, blues, folk, R&B, gospel, and pop. She was able to play the piano by ear at age 3. I mean, what I wouldn't give to have that young. What I wouldn't give to have that at all. One of Simone's influences was actually the first lady on this list in Billie Holiday. Simone's other influences were mostly classical greats such as Johann Sebastian Bach, Chopin, Brahms, Beethoven, and Schubert. This influence made Simone want to have a career in classical music, and because of community funding, she was able to attend the Juilliard School of Music in New York. After attending Juilliard, she applied to the prestigious Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia at the age of 18 in 1951. But she was denied after a great audition. Simone thinks that she didn't get into the school because of racism. I mean, it was 1951, so it's not far-fetched. Upon being denied entry into the Curtis Institute, Simone took the path that she ultimately took to become famous. She got her start at a nightclub in Atlantic City in 1954 and had to change her birth name so that family members wouldn't find out what she was doing, because they were really religious and didn't approve of her playing the devil's music. The owner of the club where she got her start also threatened to fire her if she didn't start singing as well as playing the piano. I mean, it seems that the Nina Simone that people know and love was born out of circumstance, and it started by being denied from the classical school that she wanted to attend. Simone's notable songs include I Put a Spell on You, that she covered from Screamin' Jay Hawkins, which was featured in this video I did on cover songs right here. Feeling Good, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, Sinner Man, I Loves You Porgy, and Ain't Got No, I Got Life. Simone also penned a song called Mississippi Goddamn about the deaths of Emmett Till and Medgar Evers, and started her on a path of civil rights activism. Simone performed the song in front of 10,000 people at the end of the Selma to Montgomery marches in 1965. In 2019, Mississippi Goddamn was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Simone was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. If you want to find out some more about Simone's life, then there's a great documentary on her that you should check out called What Happened, Miss Simone. A few days before Simone died in 2003, she was awarded an honorary degree to the Curtis Institute of Philadelphia, where she was earlier denied entry. Last up on the list today, but definitely not least, doesn't have any nicknames, at least not any nicknames that I know of, but she's one of the most successful and prolific songwriters in the history of music. She's none other than Diane Warren. Warren was born on September 7th, 1956 in Van Nuys, California. She started writing songs at the young age of 14, and her mother wanted her to quit writing and become a secretary, but her father encouraged her to follow her dreams. Warren actually wrote the song Because You Loved Me by Celine Dion about her father because of the support that he showed her early on in her career. I mean, can you imagine if she became a secretary? She's become one of the biggest songwriters in the history of music. Some of Warren's influences are the Beatles, Elvis, Buddy Holly, and the lady on this list earlier in Carole King. Warren has written 9 #1 songs, which is a record for solo female writers, and 32 top 10 hits on the Billboard Hot 100, and has had other songs placed in over 100 films. She's written for and worked with almost everyone in the music industry, including Elton John, NSYNC, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Roberta Flack, The Barge, Ace of Base, Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, LeAnn Rimes, Lady Gaga, Chicago, and Aerosmith, just to name a few. Warren has won a Grammy Award, an Emmy Award, a Golden Globe Award, 3 consecutive Billboard Music Awards for Songwriter of the Year, and has been nominated for 11 Academy Awards. She was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame and received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, both in 2001. Warren started her own publishing company called Real Songs, and it was named one of the top 5 music publishing corporations and is the most successful female-owned and operated business in the music industry. Alright, so that's it for today's video on great women in music history, but I wanted to just talk about something for a couple minutes. I once had an aspiring female songwriter tell me that women didn't have anyone to really look up to in the world of music and songwriting. So I continue to lay out a list of, prominent female singers and songwriters. I mean, they're people. There are tons of women in the music industry, past and present, that should inspire younger female songwriters to follow their dreams and figure out who they are. I mean, this is why I think record labels and artists shouldn't be blocking their music from YouTube. YouTube is where all the young people are now. YouTube offers a chance for younger generations to keep this great music alive by having people like me introduce the music to people who have no idea that it's even been created. I mean, my channel is still really small, and I'm not performing brain surgery here. But, I mean, if you keep this great music hidden, then it's just gonna die and be a footnote in human history. Labels and artists that block their music on YouTube are cutting off their nose to spite their face. It's not benefiting them to do that. How many teenagers right now know about these women, their music, and their contributions to society? I mean, I bet it's a small percentage, and this history can be what it takes to inspire the next generation of songwriters, singers, musicians, or even give someone that doesn't want to have a music career, the spark that they need to be inspired to do something else. That could be great. I hope to keep this as a running series and showcase maybe 5 or 6 women songwriters, musicians, and songwriters in every video. These are some of the best in this video, and they're some of the best among men too, not just women. Alright, so if you liked the video, then hit the like button. Comment down below who you think have been the most influential and greatest female songwriters and singers in the history of music. Subscribe, and I'll see you later.